Introducing NASM One, NASM's ultimate membership program. Unlock access to everything your fitness career needs to succeed. Unlimited CEUs, free courses, access to our premium app, and exclusive discounts, all for $35 a month. NASM One is best-in-class tools, cutting-edge certifications, confidence in your craft, and everything you do as a personal trainer made easy, so we can achieve our greatest goals together as one.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Random Fit with myself, Ken Miller, and my co-host and associate, Miss Wendy Batts. Wendy, how you doing?
I am great. Ken, how are you?
I am great as well. Thank goodness. And on this episode, I'm, very jazzed, so jazzed up, Wendy, as you know, as we were getting ready for this episode and this interview with Mr. Wilson Dew. Now, Wilson, you know what? There's only one way to get the point across about Wilson, because I can't find the words to introduce him. So let's bring on Mr. Wilson Dew.
What's going on, guys? Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm pumped up. Ready to go.
All right. Well, Wilson, for those of you viewers that are watching us or listening to us, we have our guest Wilson Dew. Wilson is just to sum it up, just to touch the tip of the iceberg. He is a kidney transplant recipient and gym owner in our local town here in Alameda, California. And how we came across Wilson when you first came on the scene here in the gym scene here in Alameda. The first I heard of you was as a gym owner, but there was a lot of backstory behind you as well. So tell us, Wilson, what got you into? We'll start off with the fitness side, right?
Yeah,
because that's where you are. That's where you make your money or your bread and butter, and that's your brick and mortar here in our local town. So tell us how you got to Mission HQ, and you can tell us about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was never a gym person. I never. If you asked me even, 6-7 years ago, I would have never thought that I would be in the gym business. But things just kind of led up to that point. I've been a mortgage banker in real estate all of my adult life, and all my adult life I was well over 300 pounds. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed with kidney failure back in 2016 where the doctor said if you did not lose the weight, you would not qualify for a transplant. And, long story short, I'm sure we'll get into it. It was a struggle, but I busted my butt every single day and got myself to lose the weight sustainably, and all while on dialysis. And since it was such a struggle, such a traumatic experience, I knew that there was a lot of people out there that were struggling with the same thing, not only to lose weight, but other patients that were like myself that needed the help. And hence the gym. The gym was our primary mission, is just to help other patients or those that are vulnerable in our communities live a better life or help them get to their goals. And that was my primary mission for the gym. It wasn't having a brick and mortar gym. It was just a place to have these folks come in and train. I was going to work with them for that. But we had to pay the bill somehow. And so we started classes and opened it up to the public. And, that's still what we're doing today. The gym members pay for their memberships, personal training, and that goes towards help to fund what I call the warrior class, where we have kidney patients, cancer patients, heart patients, and they all get training that's complimentary. So that's our primary mission. That's how I got into it.
And that's one of the reasons I was super excited to meet you, because you're just an inspiration, first of all. So again, I can't thank you enough for being here, but can you, let's start from the beginning. You say you're in banking, you say you're this is how you're making your living.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you get this news that you're in kidney failure, and then you're like, okay, now I need to lose weight. How did you start? Like, you're like, okay, I got this news, now what?
That's a great question. Initially, when I was diagnosed, I did not even when the doctor said, "Look, you're gonna go to dialysis, and the only other way out is a kidney transplant. And in order to qualify, you must lose 100 pounds." And back then, telling me to lose 100 pounds was like telling me to lose 1,000 pounds, right? I've tried every single diet in the past. Being a sales professional, if you're in that world, it's always let's close this deal. It's big ticket items when you're selling homes. There's celebrations all the time. There's celebrating that closing of a deal. So there were every week we were celebrating something, going out, partying, drinking. I was eating out probably 99% of the time. No awareness of nutrition, no awareness of any of that stuff. And so again, telling me to lose 100 pounds is like telling me to lose 1,000 pounds. And I thought it was impossible. I was getting ready to just, give up. Um, as soon as that diagnosis came, all it was dialysis and coming back to the house. When I was initially diagnosed, I was very, very sick. I didn't know I had kidney failure. I didn't know my kidneys were declining. So it was just one day working, the next day, boom, kidney failure on dialysis. I was hospitalized initially for about 7 or 8 weeks in the hospital as well as a nursing home. My I was laying there for so long that my legs completely atrophied. I couldn't move because of gout inflammation throughout my body. They had to try to regulate my blood pressure. So it was I didn't think I was gonna make it. I really didn't. But I had all this time, and the only thing that I can do was just in my life, I was just thinking it's probably gonna end. So one day I was just thinking about what am I gonna do? Life on dialysis was not a way to live. It was just dialysis clinic and back home. There was no purpose. I was completely broken physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything. But there was one defining moment where my father had a stroke at the same time. Um, the house was in turmoil just because I was sick, my father was sick, and I really had to make a decision of whether I wanted to be a burden on my family or just give up, or the other option was to fight. So one day coming home from dialysis, I was just sitting there in the wheelchair, just contemplating, what if I just gave up dialysis? My parents would feel much better, or they would be relieved of not having to take care of me. Sure, they'll be sad. I had a lot of questions in my mind. Would I leave this earth a better place? And to be honest with you, at that time, no, I wouldn't. All I was doing was selfishly working, going through that rat race in the corporate life, and I didn't have a life of consequence. And I remember there just sitting there, just praying, just going, I don't know what to do. Either I give up or choose life. And something in the back of my mind just kept telling me to fight. Say, no, don't give up. But then my other side would come and just, it's not worth it. It's going to be too difficult. You can't lose 100 pounds. You cannot. I'm searching all over social media looking for somebody that's on dialysis that has lost the weight so I could follow their program, do exactly what they're doing. And I could not find anybody. Everybody was post transplant doing all these great things. Nobody was losing that weight. So again, very discouraging, but something in the back of my mind just kept on telling me to fight, choose life, choose life. Those exact words just kept on overpowering my thoughts of giving up. And there was that one defining moment when I came home from dialysis, sitting there, and I had to make a decision. I said either I was going to fight or I was going to give up. And as I kept telling myself to choose life, I just decided, okay, what does that look like? What does that mean? And from there, it was just talking myself into it. Let's just fight this. I don't care what it is. Let's just fight. Let's just do this. And you know what? Let's give it all we got. Let's give it hell, even if it kills us, because I'm already dead. Let's go ahead and fight. From that defining moment, I got up off that wheelchair and I took my very first steps. And I hadn't walked for months. And I walked from the wheelchair to the front door, which was about 10 feet. First step, very painful, some of the most painful steps I've ever taken in my life. And I did it. I went about 10 feet. I walked back to the wheelchair, and all of that physical pain masked all of the emotional pain, all of the thinking of I didn't think about my folks. I didn't think about the people I cared about. I didn't think about my life. I just thought about that pain. And for the first time, I was free. I was free from everything else, and it was just me and that pain. And I got I got hooked on it, and I just kept on doing that every single day. That 10 feet walk was so painful, but it masked everything. So I kept on doing that like a drug just to get me away from everything else. But pretty soon, as you both know, the mind and the body's very, very strong. It got a little bit stronger, and that 10 feet wasn't doing anything for me anymore. So it went, 15 feet and then to 20 feet and then down the block. My first mile, I remember taking almost an hour to do. My mom's following me with her with the wheelchair. I had crutches, canes, and just kept on going and going. And it kept on seeking something to challenge me so that I wouldn't think about any of the other pain. And I didn't set my goals to lose that 100 pounds at all. That wasn't my intention. It was just to hide the pain. But as a byproduct of doing all this walking and just kind of pushing myself, the weight started coming off a little bit. And so I just kept on going and going and going. And at a certain point, I was walking, gosh, almost, I think my highest on my Fitbit was like 60,000 steps in a day because that's all I had.
Wow.
I would I would walk as far as I could. I would stop, rest up. Sometimes I stopped for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I got ready to go. Picked up again. I would walk again. And at certain times it would be 5, 6 in the morning. I would walk. I would come back for lunch or whatever. And then I would be out till maybe 9 o'clock at night, just walking and walking. That's all I had. And that was my meditation to get away from all of the pain. So it was after walking turned into jogging a little bit, jogging turned into biking, and it just kept on going from there. And all of a sudden, I'm here looking maybe 18 months later, and here I am qualified for transplant. And it was wild that it wasn't even a goal, but it just kept on going and going. I was playing games with myself, trying to lose 1 kilo a week when I was in dialysis, just weighing it out and just kept on moving and moving and moving. And I always found ways to try to challenge myself. I ended up doing a bike ride from here in Alameda all the way down to San Diego on my road bike. I ended up doing the Oakland Triathlon in 2019. And I was one of the last persons to finish, but I didn't care. It was just about finishing. And all of these things I didn't even do before diagnosis, right? So this was just an incredible thing. And after the triathlon, it was okay. Well, I've lost the weight. I've qualified for transplant. I was still on dialysis. And now people were reaching out going, hey, you're on dialysis. You lost the weight. Can you show me how? I'm also on dialysis. And so then, that's really where the seed of having the gym entered my mind, just thinking, gosh, maybe one day when I get better, I can go ahead and open a gym and maybe help out some other people. But, as the universe works, that gym just kind of landed on my lap and the opportunity arose. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a trainer. I didn't know how to train people. I just knew that, I have my personal trainer and I was like, all right, you train me. I'm taking over this space. You train me and you just teach some classes. And that's how we'll collect some money. But then other than that, I'm just going to work with the patients. We'll walk together. We'll do simple things together to build confidence. And that's exactly kind of what we did for a while. And as the gym grew, it forced me into actually learning a little bit more and doing a little bit more.
So Wendy, just a little backstory. I remember, so Wilson, the previous owner of your facility, I remember when she was on her way out, I knew that the space was open, and then just out of nowhere, I heard the name Mission HQ taking over the new spot, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that's when I first started reading about you and first started understanding about Mission HQ and what your what your background is and what you were trying to accomplish. So I couldn't have been more happy with who my competitor, right, is. Literally, Wendy, it's not even a mile from my doorstep to his doorstep.
That's right.
One block off, less than a mile down the street, right? So from that standpoint, I mean, and Wendy, you know me, it's like the more the merrier. The more people, the more professionals, the more facilities we have out there helping people, the better, especially for the local community that we live in, because it is a small community, and you know, our goal for what we do at Training Station, my facility, is just help the community live a better life, right?
That's right.
And you definitely embrace that idea. So when you came on board, I was happy, right? Just because you have your clientele, you have your mission, and I, from what I understood of you at the time, and your background and your history and your motivations, I thought, hey, Alameda couldn't be in better hands. So with that being said, Wilson, you, like you said, 6-7 years ago, owning a facility was not even on your radar. So how did you I mean, and you're, you know, you come from a different industry. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
what made you just jump into that pool? Because there's a lot of trainers out there that are like, well, you know, those that are going for it and those that are just like, well, it's a lot, but you just went for it.
You know, the Mission HQ, the gym was not a, it wasn't going to be my bread and butter. It wasn't going to be a moneymaker. The main thing, it was a passion project. And if I could be honest, it's like in the beginning, I didn't care so much for that gym part of it. It was just, my trainer was there. You teach the classes, do your thing. I'm just going to focus on the patients. And that was just my main thing. I just knew that we needed to build confidence within that population that doesn't seem to get that help, because I desperately needed that help. I went to other trainers throughout the island, and a lot of trainers that I work with, they were great, but they just didn't understand the situation. They were just, a lot of times I would go to some of the gyms, and when I hired the trainer, it was just like, just go ahead and do it. It's all in your mind. I go, no, it's not that simple. You got to talk to me in a different way. I'm chronically ill. I'm on dialysis. I've never really worked out before, and please help me. And a lot of the trainers that I've worked with have been fit all their lives. They're not going to understand. I felt that they didn't understand where I was coming from. And so that's what kind of led me into that space with these patients, is that I understand where you're coming from. I'm not the best. I'm not super fit at the time or anything like that. But what we can do is we can work through this together. I lost the weight. I've crossed that line, and let me show you how. That was going to be just the main purpose of it. And with that mission and with that passion, the gym just kind of grew. And it just became to, kind of grew into what it is now. And now not only are the patients my heart and my soul, but now the members are my heart and my soul. And we're very lucky to even get through the pandemic and still be around today. I think it's one of the greatest blessings in my life.
So Wilson, those of you guys that are joining us today on Random Fit with myself, Wendy Batts, and Ken Miller, we have a very special guest. What Wilson do is on and talking to us about being, starting and finding out that he had renal failure, a kidney failure, and then all of a sudden now opening this incredible gym to help those that are going through the same types of struggles, whether it's, with the kidneys, cancer, you said, and then other things. But Wilson, can you kind of go into a little more detail? So, for example, Ken and I, one of our mentors, actually gave his kidney to his brother. Wow. And so we know kind of the journey that he went through from the time he had to prepare for it to afterwards. And then, of course, they're both doing phenomenal. And then we know someone who is also very near and dear to us. He was actually the president of NATA that actually needed a kidney, and his sister donated for him. And so can you talk to us, those of us that have never gone through that and hopefully never will, however, they just to understand when you say you're going through pain, like what is your body doing? And then when you go through dialysis, what is that like? And then are you down and out for a couple days after, or is it immediate, you feel better and you can do things? Can you kind of walk us through that process?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So dialysis is it's a very draining process. So when I was on dialysis, I was going to the clinic anywhere between 3 to 4 days a week. For those of you that are not familiar exactly what dialysis is as a kidney stop working, you have to live through a machine where it acts as your kidney. So kidneys naturally filter out the blood, takes away the toxins, as well as allow you to urinate all of the excess fluids and toxins out. And as a kidney patient, I wasn't doing that. So everything I ate, everything I drank would stay in my body. All the fluids would, at least. So if I overconsumed, I would swell up. Um, I would get into the clinic again anywhere between 12 to 16 hours a week of filtration. As a normal person, you would have it for 24 hours a day, filtering out all your blood, excreting all the waste and all that good stuff. But for myself, I only had 12 to 16 hours a week of that. And in that process, as they pull out all of your blood, as they pull out the extra fluids, they clean it out, they put it back in your body. It is a very draining process. Not only does it take out the toxins, but it takes out the essential amino acids. It takes off all sorts of electrolytes, and so you're left drained, dehydrated somewhat, and just completely fatigued. That was the main symptom of dialysis. Not to mention during dialysis, when you have complications of your access clotting, bleeding out, having to catch all the blood. I get two big old needles that you can actually see through the eye of the needle. You can see daylight, and they're poking it in my arm. Two needles, one needle to pull out the blood, one needle to put it back in. Um, with that comes a lot of hospitalizations just because of complications that come from it, constant surgeries for the access of where they would dialyze you. So all of that, it's very difficult to get any type of physical activity. And as you can imagine, I would compare it as if you could wake up in the middle of the night and you need to use the restroom as you're sleeping, you got to go pee. It's that feeling all of the time. You're just constantly drained, and that was the crux of it. And to get yourself to even work out, to get yourself to think, to read a book, to do any of that stuff is very exhausting and very draining. And I was on that for 5.5 years. But again, the only thing that actually made me feel normal was exercise, because I could go to the gym, and if I took a class, yes, I might warm up and I might be huffing, I might be puffing, but guess what? Within the next 10, 15 minutes, everybody's huffing and puffing. And at that moment, I was like everybody else. I was not a kidney patient. I didn't have any emotional pains or any traumatic experience. At that moment, I am just a member like everybody else. And so that was one of the things that helped me fight through the pain. The other stuff, that's just part of the physical part of it, but just the emotional part outside of working out, and it puts your life on hold. I was 34 years old when I was diagnosed. I had a lot of dreams. My career was going sky high. I was looking forward to possibly one day getting married, having kids. I wanted to do so much more with my work. I had all these big goals, and everything just came to a halt. And so just the thought of that, of thinking about, okay, will I even survive this? Will I be able to have a family? Will I be able to do all these things? Everything was on hold. I often was telling people while on dialysis when I went out to go speak was that, many people, we all have a bunch of hopes and dreams in our lives. And for me at the time, I only had one wish. My only wish was just to survive and get better. Everything else was secondary to it. And so that was what I was just working towards all the time.
So let's talk about, thanks for sharing that, because I'm sure those that are listening that are going through this or know somebody who has. I did a quick search on the whole, well, on the waiting list
Yes.
for organ transplants. And you talked about you were all of a sudden one day renal failure, right?
Yep.
Kidney failure. So from that day, I'm sure you started going through the process of being on that waiting list. Because as I looked up a quick internet search, and 103,000 people on an organ transplant list
Yes.
today. Kidneys is number one on that list.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can discuss with us, getting on that list, waiting for the transplant,
Yep.
and then eventually finding the donor who helped you,
Yep.
become who you are, to what you're able to do today.
No, that's right now, kidney disease is the ninth leading cause of death in the United States. It's more so than breast cancer, prostate cancer, and as you mentioned, Ken, over 100,000 or roughly are in need of an organ transplant. You have, for kidneys at least, I believe the number is anywhere between 80 to 100,000 people that are waiting for a kidney here in the United States. We have over, I think it's last I checked, maybe six or 700,000 people total on dialysis. You have, I believe, about 10% of the population that's dealing with kidney disease. Half of them does not know that they have it. But once you're on dialysis and you qualify to receive a transplant, the wait here in California, at least when I first started dialysis in 2016, the wait was anywhere between 5 to 7 years. And as of late, it can be up to 10 years. The last letter I received from my transplant center was I had to wait at least 10 years. This is for a deceased donor. That means somebody has to pass away and they need to mark that they're a donor on their driver's license. And if you're fortunate enough, you'll get a call. You'll have to rush to the hospital, and a lot of people pass away waiting for that call. The other option is the getting a live donor, and that's what I received. As I qualified for kidney transplant in 2018, I'd lost the weight. I was on dialysis for about a couple of years. The National Kidney Foundation started sending me around asking me, hey, would you be able to talk a little bit about your journey and help talk to other patients? I gladly did that. And for myself, I went on a speaking circuit, sharing my journey with just other companies and other patients and to the medical community. And very fortunate that I believe it was back in 2019 sometime, I went out to Charles Schwab. The National Kidney Foundation has sent me out to speak to them. And those were bankers. They were, there was right in my wheelhouse. So I said, okay, let me go ahead and do it. There was the National Kidney Foundation's executive director out here in the West Coast. She had just taken the post maybe about 6 or 7 weeks. So she came out, she was listening to my talk at Charles Schwab. And when I was there, I mentioned same thing like I just told the both of you that, as a kidney patient, all I had was one wish. I wanted to get married. I wanted to start a family. I had career goals, but all that's at a halt. And I hope that one day I can get back into it. Well, during that talk, she was very compelled by that story and heard it. And, the executive director came up and she says, not only am I going to talk the talk as my position, I'm going to walk the walk, and I want to donate my kidney. I want to donate it to you. So I was very, very fortunate to receive my kidney transplant from Amy Hewitt, the executive director of the National Kidney Foundation. And we did that in March 8th, 2022.
That's amazing. That
Yeah.
is. And so Wilson, you guys have to have it has to be a match, right? You can't just take someone's kidney and transplant it, right?
Well, that's a very, very good question. Yes, typically you have to be a match, but in this day and age, with all the technology, there's something called a paired exchange. So what happens is, say, for example, I had my donor. She didn't match with me. Somebody else had a donor that didn't match with them. And so we swapped. And so that exchange program, I was in a group of 8 people. So 4 people received kidneys and 4 people donated. They mixed match from some folks from across the country. And we all did it over there at UC Davis.
That's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's such an incredible thing. One of my staff members over at the gym donated her kidney last May on her birthday. We were working with a local firefighter here in Alameda. He found a donor. We were talking to the both of them. They finally did theirs July 2022. It's such just a wonderful world. These kidneys, I work with a lot of patients. Some of them have already received kidneys. We've connected a lot of folks with their donors. So, it's really a fulfilling life right now. I would say that, I thought I really loved, I thought I really loved what I was doing before. It doesn't even come close to, what I'm doing right now.
So let me ask you this, because I mean, you definitely opened the door for, I mean, you've got a great story, definitely an inspiration to say the least. And you're a great person, Wilson. But for Renal Warrior, I see that across
Yeah.
your hoodie there.
Yeah.
What's next? You're doing speaking engagements, you're out there, you're
Yep.
helping the local community. I mean, that's more than what a lot of people do in a lifetime. But since you're so young and you've got this new lease on life, so to speak, what's next for you? What do you have coming up, and what are you working towards?
That's a great question. Right now that we built a community there at the Mission HQ, um, it's really about building the confidence so that people can do more. I'm certainly not the expert on getting the scientific aspect of it. I let all of the trainers do that, and it's such a great community that I want to bring that out to the country. There's so many other patients that reach out that are not able to make it out here to Alameda. This gym is only in this facility here. So I have built a infrastructure which we're going to be rolling out this year, and my hope is to go out there and fly around the country to work with patients with where they're at. And I will be talking to different coaches around all over the country so that these folks can get help. I will double that up. I would fund it by going out there, helping folks get off the couch. And at the same time, whatever city or state that they're in, I'm going to hopefully be able to link up with some other patients in that area. Um, uh, we'll definitely be focusing on that, coaching all these other patients to actually help them live their best life or for them to reach their goals. That is what's next for Renal Warrior, just to go out there. I have a book coming out. Some local filmmakers have made a documentary, so that should be coming out here maybe towards the end of the year, and really just looking to inspire others to live a better life. It's not certainly not everybody's going to be in this position where they'll be in kidney failure. I hope that they won't. And what I'm really preaching to a lot of folks is that a little bit goes a long way. If I would have just taken a 20-minute walk every day before I was diagnosed, that probably would have taken things, gotten things a little bit better. If I would have just put down a couple of the drinks, that would have probably been a little bit better. So really just bringing that passion out there. I really have felt that the formula that I'm using, which is just one step at a time. When all I could do was just walk 10 feet, that's all I did. And I'm here to tell, as a fitness professional now, I'm here to tell these folks, if you can't walk, just if you can stand up, that's it. Stand up, sit down. Do that a few times, and every single day you'll get a little bit stronger. If you could walk a little bit, you'll get a little bit stronger. We all have this big mountain to climb. And I'm not trying to convince you to climb up to the top of the mountain, because that can be intimidating. That could be scary. What I am trying to do is convince you to take that next step, whatever that is. If it's just an inch, take that next step. Let me be there with you. I will walk that with you. And once we conquered that next step, once we conquered that inch, then we'll conquer the next inch. And if you just focus on that next step and that next inch, eventually it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we hit our goals. It could be 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And tell you what, you're going to be halfway up that mountain. You're going to look down and go, wow, all those little one step at a time, it got me up half the mountain. Now let's look up. We look at the mountain. We have half the mountain to go. Okay. We see where it's at. Now we go back into focus of that next step. And I will walk that with you. I will be there with you until we reach the top of that mountain. That is the main premise of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to bring out to everybody. I myself just look at social media at the time I was trying to get fit, and everybody's just super ripped. And I'm like, if that's the goal, if that's what I got to be, this is impossible. I'm coming here. I could barely walk at the time, and I'm seeing all this. And there wasn't that person telling me to take that one step at a time. So I'm here to just tell everybody, right now I'm in the greatest shape of my life. I'm the strongest I've ever been, physically, mentally, physically, everything. And I'm telling folks, it's a process, and I will walk this. I will walk through the fire with you. Let's do it together.
Such an inspiration. I'm telling you, you just gave me chills. So, but Wilson, I mean, obviously Ken and I can talk about this all day because
Yep.
your story is just so remarkable. What you're doing in your community, what you're doing just with anyone that's listening, especially if they're on the struggle bus, they're going through what what you've
Yep.
been through, or maybe they're getting ready to have to start
Mhm.
where you were. How can people find you? Like if someone is sitting there and they're listening and they're on social media, because we're going to post this everywhere.
Yes.
And they hear your story and they want to find you or reach out. Can you kind of give everyone your best contact? Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Renal Warrior 2016. That's the year I was diagnosed. DM me on there. There's links on there to get a hold of me. On my link me, I have a link me link on my Instagram, which will get you in touch with me via email, phone number, and I will talk to everybody, anybody that needs help. And if I can't get back to you in time, I'll have one of my team members get back to you so that we can actually get the help that you need. I make sure that it's a priority that we get back to every single person, especially every single patient that needs the help. I know that a lot of times when you're there and you're desperate, you need somebody to talk to. I'll be there. Just reach out to me.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Also, hey, buddy. On behalf of Wendy and I, we are so happy, even more so now than when we first started this episode. But
Yeah.
we're so happy to have had you on, and have got a lot more insight on you.
Yep.
I know that we still have yet to hang out. And,
Yeah, we got to.
Yeah, Wendy. So one last little bit. The first time Wilson and I we reached out to each other, we followed each other on social media. We DM'd each other, said hello, hey, great stuff going on down there. But the first time we saw each other, we were both crossing the street.
Oh, that's right.
We were crossing the street, and we were both at the same intersection. I'm like, Wilson. He's like, Ken. Yeah. So our first meeting was we were just crossing the street. We're at the same intersection.
Yeah.
On a Friday night, and that's where we first shook hands. But we got to actually sit down and have another sit down and get together, my man.
Yeah, no, it's our little town's such a great town. It's a small town. Everybody knows everybody, so it's great to have good people here on the island like yourself, Ken. Thank you for even being part of the community and reaching out with just open arms. I really, really appreciate it. I was, very, very intimidated coming into this market, just not knowing exactly what was going to happen, but couldn't be more blessed with such support from the community, even with the gym down the street. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And we welcome you with open arms, my friend. So thanks so much. We'll definitely have to connect. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you listening to us here on Random Fit, hope you got as much out of this episode with Wilson Du as our guest, and when what he's done and what he's been through and what he's doing right now with his facility, Mission HQ. If you like what you listened to today, like, follow, subscribe, rate, download, share, all the good stuff, especially this episode. If there's any one episode that I want you to do that with, it's this one. So until next time, everybody, take care and be well.